This is a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in the nation's capital. President Biden is about to speak at the White House about this new ceasefire agreement just reached between Israel and Hamas. The halt infighting brokered by Egypt follows intense pressure from the White House. It will bring an end to 11 days of deadly violence. Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 230 Palestinians in Gaza, and Hamas rockets have killed 12 in Israel. Here now the president.
Spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Earlier today, I spoke with President al-Sisi of Egypt. Prime Minister Netanyahu informed me that Israel has agreed to a mutual unconditional ceasefire to begin in less than 2 hours. The Egyptians have now informed us that Hamas and the other groups in Gaza have also agreed. In my conversation with President Netanyahu, I commended him for the decision to bring the current hostilities to a close within less than 11 days. I also emphasized what I've said throughout this conflict. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks from Hamas and other Gaza-based terrorist groups that have taken the lives of innocent civilians in Israel. The Prime Minister also shared with me his appreciation for the Iron Dome system, which our nations developed together and which has saved lives of countless Israeli citizens, both Arab and Jew. I assured him of my full support to replenish Israel's Iron Dome system to ensure its defenses and security in the future. Over the last 11 days, I've spoken with the Prime Minister 6 times. I've also spoken with President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority more than once, and part of our intense diplomatic engagement. And I want to also thank the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, our National Security Advisor, and everyone on our team for their incredible efforts to bring this outcome that we're about to see. You know, we've held intensive high-level discussions, hour by hour, literally. Egypt, the Palestinian Authority, and other Middle Eastern countries, with the aim of avoiding the sort of prolonged conflict we've seen in previous years when the hostilities have broken out. I extend my sincere gratitude to President al-Sisi and the senior Egyptian officials who played such a critical role in this diplomacy. I also appreciate the contributions of other parties in the region who have been engaged in working toward the end of hostilities. These hostilities have resulted in the tragic deaths of so many civilians, including children. And I send my sincere condolences to all the families, Israeli and Palestinian, who have lost loved ones, and my hope for a full recovery for the wounded. The United States committed to working with the United Nations, and we remain committed to working with the United Nations and other international stakeholders to provide rapid humanitarian assistance and to marshal international support for the people of Gaza and the Gaza reconstruction efforts. We will do this in full partnership with the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, the Authority, in a manner that does not permit Hamas to simply restock its military arsenal. I believe the Palestinians and Israelis equally deserve to live safely and securely and to enjoy equal measures of freedom, prosperity, and democracy. My administration will continue our quiet, relentless diplomacy toward that end. I believe we have a genuine opportunity to make progress, and I'm committed to working for it. And I want to thank you all, and may God bless you all, and pray that this continues. Thank you so much.
And the President of the United States praising those who were involved in this intensive diplomacy that has brought about this mutual and unconditional ceasefire, which is set to begin in the next 2 hours. Let's bring in Holly Williams, who is in Tel Aviv, Israel. And Holly, this is news that it's about to start. What's still unsaid about this ceasefire agreement?
Norah, there are so many details that we don't have here. That's a big problem, including the crucial question as to whether this ceasefire sets the stage for negotiations between the two sides. Hamas, that's the group in charge of the tiny, poverty-stricken Gaza Strip. It's regarded by the U.S. As a terrorist organization. They say that this ceasefire will start at 2 a.m. local time. That's in under an hour. President Biden perhaps confirmed that time just now, but we've had no official confirmation of that at all all from the Israeli side so far. And I should tell you that just in the last hour, we've had reports of both rocket fire coming from the Gaza Strip and ongoing Israeli airstrikes. So this looks fragile, to say the least. But for people here, in the eye of the conflict, at least it's a ceasefire.
No doubt that many people have been waiting for, many families that have been affected given the situation in the Gaza Strip. Let's bring in, thank you, Holly Williams. Let's bring in CBS's Ed O'Keefe. He is at the White House. And Ed, this is something that the president has been, as he pointed out, intensively working on along with his national security team.
That's right, but behind the scenes, these were the most extensive public comments he's made since the violence began. The administration pointing out today they've made more than 80 phone calls to leaders across the Middle East. He noted he's spoken 6 times with the Israeli leader, today with the president of Egypt, which serves as the interlocutor to Hamas because the United States doesn't speak directly with what it characterizes as a terrorist organization. Perhaps the most interesting part of his statement was right there at the end when he said that he hopes that the Israelis and Palestinians have equal measures of freedom. That's partly in response to the changing political dynamics in this country. He's gotten the sharpest criticism this week from members of his own party, concerned that he's not properly taking into account the plight of the Palestinians. Today, suggesting now that going forward, he wants to see both sides work together towards peace and prosperity.
It's an excellent point. Ed O'Keefe at the White House, thank you. And our coverage will continue on our streaming network, CBSN, your local news. And we'll have a lot more tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell, Washington.
For news 24 hours a day, go to CBSNews.com.